was a big storm coming, would you?
The storm is coming.
What did he just say?
He said there's a storm coming.
At the heart of the storm is a source of evil that will change their lives forever.
I don't understand why you chose me.
You want to change the world, son. So do I. People want to change the world, don't know how to begin.
Let's start with a smile. Be honest.
It's love! The secret ingredient is love!
Okay, just calm down.
What the hell are we doing here, Harry?
All you have to do is give me answers. Just give me the right answer.
Tell the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
I can't promise I'll try, but I'll try to try.
We can figure this out, right? We can figure this out, right?
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Worship in the Storm, episode number 7. I'm one of your hosts, Immanuel Kingman, and here with me is Andy from the War-Torn Deep Share podcast. How are you, Andy?
What up, homie? What's going on, everybody?
Oh man, so you've been going through it with some stuff, so you're not in your normal studio setup.
Yeah. Studio got flooded.
Yeah, it's tough.
Literally a deluge came through. Unfortunately, no gods showed up with like mathematics and shit.
Yeah, no Pythagoras for you.
Yeah. No boats came to save us and teach us history.
Yeah, man, that's so when you spend so much time and effort into something and then it just by the hand of God it's just done for whatever reason, that's really tough. So I hope that you get everything up and running again soon, because it was, your studio was rocking. Are you going to do it the same way or going to change it up?
It's pretty much going to be the same, maybe a little bit nicer, but I'm just kind of trying to rebuild right now. And my wife and I now have our podcast called Deep Healing with Andy and Kate. So we kind of incorporated a new setup into the same studio. But so we'll eventually go video as well on Deep Healing.
Nice.
We're just not there yet. But when we do, we'll have our own setup. I'm not sure what it's going to look like yet, but we're kind of working on it. We're sort of in it right now, but it's nothing to behold,
Yeah, well, so now you have a whole blank canvas for the two of you to start. And it's interesting that it happened right after you did your first episode, right?
Maybe not right after the first episode. We might have released it close to there, but it was actually a string of crazy events that occurred that were just pushing us to reinvent things or upgrade our lives in certain things. Like we were upset about this. Obviously, it sucked. But at the same time, when it happened and while it was happening and while I was taking multiple trips to friggin' Home Depot and getting different things, we both had to laugh a lot too. And we had to just try to look at it in the best way we could. And I kept saying, well, abundance is surely flowing into our lives.
Yeah, I heard the second episode of Deep Healing, and I loved both episodes. I listened to both of them. Mimi has as well. Yeah, Mimi's not here yet. For anyone who's just going to be listening on the audio, she'll be here soon. Maybe we don't know.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we're really excited to do this, and it's going to be very open-hearted on both of our parts, and it's going to be fun.
Oh, it's great doing it because it makes you more comfortable like doing it together. I know for me anyway, when I have Mimi here with me, it makes me feel more comfortable, and then her and I are just the same way with each other on camera or off camera, so it just worked out perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're recording, and like half the time we're having these awesome conversations upstairs on the couch, and we're like, we should be recording right now. So now we have a reason to,
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, so man, you had a bunch of different stuff. You got in a car accident as well?
Yes, yeah, got into a car accident. That was fun.
Was everyone all right? Was it just you in the
Yeah,
car?
it was just me on my way to work, and some old dude friggin' broadsided me, ran a
Oh,
light,
wow.
and yeah, it was a whole thing. But then, yeah, the car needed to get fixed too. It just like everything was happening to like push us to take care of shit that needed to get done. And you listen to episode 2, it's literally called Stop Stopping Yourself. So
Yeah.
that thread has been really big for us, and it has been for a long time, but we're really trying to take what we've learned from our, learning and experiences, and finally put the damn shit to practice, and start doing the stuff, and really completing the cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll have to add in the description, I'll have to add in your Venmo and your was it Red Circle site so that anyone wants to donate to you to get
Oh,
your
sure,
studio
yeah.
fixed up. Yeah, we'll add that in there for you.
Yeah, I mean, a number of people from the community helped out, and I can't thank them enough. This whole community is so supportive and wonderful, and I'm so happy to be a part of it with all of you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I mean, when like some of my best friends in the world are people who I've never met
Yeah. Yep.
in person who they do podcasts as well, but we all get along so well. And whenever someone needs something, there's people that are always there looking out for you, saying, "How can I help?" And it's really great. It's better, I couldn't have envisioned something as peaceful and helping as this little Instagram community is that we have going on.
Yeah, man. It feels like an extended family. It's really
Mhm.
great. And it just keeps growing. We've been saying this for a while, and I keep saying like there's more participation, not less listening, but definitely more participation.
Yeah.
The audience is becoming the speakers. We're all in this together. So the more that we grow, the more that we're listening to everybody's perspective. It's just we're putting our perspectives out there now
Right.
collectively, rather than just keeping them in our heads or in our small circles around campfires. They're all out there,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah, and that's what one thing I love is that I've had on several guests that were listeners of the show that
Mm,
they were commenting a lot or they were email me about stuff all the time. I'm like, hey, let's go, come on,
yeah,
and and just talking to people, and those are episodes that I'm not necessarily expecting a ton of listeners, but I don't really care for numbers. But when I have people message me consistently saying, "Hey, I just heard this episode, and this one really made me want to reach out to you," that really means something to me.
yeah,
Like they can tell, like I'm here to help, and when I can reach people through a kind act like that, I'm not trying to praise myself by saying a kind act, but I don't need professionals or experts to come on the show to talk about stuff. Just I want to hear life stories.
yeah, man. Like having some of the heavy hitters on is really fun, and it's really
Oh yeah.
exciting, and I'm always so blessed to meet some of my favorite authors or other podcasters that are you know doing really well, and have really set the stage for a lot of people, and that's so awesome and fun. But a lot of times the best conversations I've had in this gig have been just with some listeners that I've come to love and follow myself, and join groups and everything with them,
Yeah.
and they come on, and that's the best. And in season 2, or whatever I want to call whatever it is, I'm coming back whenever the hell the studio is
The
done.
resurrection.
Yeah, in a week or two, I would say I'll be back, or soon. I want to have a bunch of people on that I haven't had on since early on. So that'll be really fun, because those are always like the longest conversations, the deepest, the weirdest, and those are always the best.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is. That's how you and we got started with Worship in the Storms because we had such a great talk, and Mimi was like,
Yeah.
"You guys would just go on and on and on." So I was like, you know what? One day I was like, Andy would be great to have a show with, and then here we are.
Yeah, man. I think Worship in the Storm has done a lot of good for my attitude towards podcasting in general. But
Yeah.
my attitude overall too. Just our interactions are always so awesome.
Yeah, because this is so chill compared to what we were just saying. When you have on those big guests that you got to prepare for, you want to hit certain topics, you want to really nail down something, and you want to dig into a topic. Where we come on here and we're just like, "Hey, what's going on?" And then we just
Yeah.
roll. I've been getting a lot of really good feedback too. The last few episodes, people are telling me like they love the intro. The one guy messaged me and said he could listen to the intro on a loop. And I was like, "Oh, that's great."
That's awesome.
That's
That's so
exactly what
great.
we go for.
Hell yeah, dude. I just want us to be able to have our crazy conversations go somewhere, and they are. I love this. We said it at the beginning how me and my wife do it, but like my friends and I for decades, used to have conversations for hours, and they
Oh, here
always
she
should have
is.
been. Hi, Mimi. They always should have been recorded. And
Yeah.
now we have the opportunity to just share our crazy shit and see what sticks with people.
Yeah,
And
for
see what
sure.
doesn't, see what people might have to say in contradiction to it, which is so helpful. I've gotten a lot of excellent feedback, for or against something I've said or something they've heard on my show. And, people do their own research, man. And it shows. And it's fucking great.
Yeah, for sure. Welcome, Mimi.
What did I miss? What did
Hello.
I
What
miss?
up?
What
No, we're
up?
just kicking it, talking of Andy was telling us a bit
Uh-oh.
about
I
his
shut the door too early. The dog's got to follow me everywhere.
Andy was just
Just got
telling
home.
us about him fixing up the studio and
Yeah,
we
how's that
just
going?
talked about that a bit.
Slowly but surely, it's
Okay,
happening.
good.
But it's
Okay, good.
okay. It'll come back together with the
Build
help
back
of
better.
yes, build back better. Build Bach better.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Yeah, man. It was pretty intense, man. I like getting up at 5 in the morning for work and just going downstairs to the studio, checking my email and hearing trickling and going, all right, well, did Kate feng
Uh-oh.
shui or something? And I was like, no, that's louder than any of the
Feng
water
shui
fountains we
trickling.
have. So I look over and yeah, there's just water pouring
Oh, wow.
underneath my basement door, which is old as hell. I mean, we have a house that was built in 1901. So
Wow.
And I heard
there's
the
some
why.
cracks. There's some little things in the foundation that aren't great. But
Mm.
yeah, the whole property's behind my house, our neighbors' houses. We all had ice skating rinks in our backyards because of this massive bike path that was installed behind our neighborhood. And they just leveled and graded down. They removed tons of trees, tons of pine trees and earth and leaves and pile up and everything that most likely was distributing the rain and the snow in a much different way beforehand. And then suddenly, for the first time ever, everybody's got shop vacs going and hoses out their basement windows. So it wasn't just us. We all
I
got hit.
wonder if you can all get together and
Yeah,
hit the county and,
that's kind of what we were thinking too. I
Yeah.
was wondering if we should go
I'm
door to door and ask some
sure
neighbors.
you'll find someone that'll tell you that you can and they'll do it,
Yeah.
you know.
And it might be interesting too. I wouldn't want to like wave it around or anything, not in an arrogant way by any means, but just like in a helpful way to be like, I'm a public person and I have a podcast and I could
We
say
never
bad
did
things.
that. We never did that for like an Airbnb or anything.
Well,
Never.
That's right.
That was different.
Well,
That was
it was different,
justified.
but it was still the same like
Well, it was
process.
because the woman was saying she didn't know, and Mimi's like, "Well,
You can find us
yeah,
anywhere.
you can find
Hello.
our stuff on because we
Yeah.
do a
Yeah.
podcast." So it was a bit different,
It
but
did work, so maybe it will work.
yeah, I mean, well, even so, I mean, it doesn't really matter if you have a podcast or not. What they did ended up ruining, or
Yeah.
it contributed to what happened to many different of
Yeah,
their
many.
residents' homes. So,
Oh, yeah.
so they should definitely own up for what they did in some type of fashion.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, who knows? But yeah, it didn't stop for hours, and I was like getting sandbags and all kinds of shit and trying to dig out a gully, and it was nuts.
Yeah,
I
if
was
you have
in
a
wait I
hole.
was in waders in my backyard in like a foot of water.
Oh well, yeah. You messaged me. You're like, "Oh yeah, it's flooded, but don't worry, we're still going to be able to go tonight." I'm like, "All right."
Joking.
Yeah, and then by that time I was like I was down in this basement that whole weekend basically.
Hmm.
Just and then into the week too. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was nuts. Yeah, it was a rough time, but honestly, I try to take it all positively, and it sounds cheesy to just be able to do that, but I haven't been able to do that in the past, and this was a great moment where we really just took it in stride and kept moving forward.
Yeah, you're like,
And
oh, you got jokes now? Thanks.
yeah, what are you throwing at us now?
Yeah.
Well, it's
And
interesting what you're saying because it's like taking it in stride, whereas before you would just get mad and then
Mhm.
do it being mad. Now you're
yeah,
like, well, there's no point in being mad. I'm just gonna have to
Or
do
make
it
it worse
anyway.
being mad.
Right.
That's what I would probably end up doing is like making it
absolutely.
worse by being mad.
Right.
Yeah, usually I would take it and turn it into the most gigantic mountain I could to, I don't know, justify having like a panic about it or something.
Right.
And yeah, no, instead it was just like, well, fuck. And then it's funny too, because I was literally about to call my boss. Because at first I'm like, okay, well, the way my job works, I can kind of go in during a window of time and stay in an ordinate window of time to make up that time, whatever. But so I was like, yeah, I could probably go in at 9 after I take care of this. And then, like, within 20 minutes, I was like, there's no stopping this. Like, this is Ragnarok. So I was like about to call my boss when I found that he had texted all of us saying the roads are really icy, so I don't expect anyone in the office today. And I'm like, holy shit. Guess what happened?
Uh-oh. Yeah.
So yeah, at least I had the day off kind of free to deal with it, and then it was the weekend. So yeah, that was nuts.
Yeah.
In
Well,
other news, we're still procrastinating our special episode.
well,
We're getting there. It's
I'm-
coming this weekend.
I mean, there was a point where I wanted to do it, but then things happen.
Which
We had
one?
different ideas, Mimi and I. We just do bonus episodes. We always call the episodes that we do together bonus episodes.
Yeah.
And we were gonna do it, but we had different ideas of how it would go.
I wasn't capable when he wanted to do it.
That's a good word. That's a good
But
word.
yeah, I
for
like
it.
that you guys say that, like that you ask each other if you're capable of something at a certain time, and if you're not, you're like, okay, cool, I'll catch you in a little bit. Kind
Yeah.
of like when he asked me to exercise with him, I'm like, no, I'm not capable.
But
Today I did. So
Yeah, and we've
that's
also
W
kind of
for
told
me
each other
today.
like we can't automatically use that as like our crutch and
Right.
like just immediately start forgiving each other for giving into laziness or whatever or fear or whatever it is over and over again with the same shit just because we
Right.
said it was okay. So you got to always play a balancing act, because especially when you're like Kate and I, which you've heard it on the show, we say we deserve each other in both good or bad, because we are polar opposites in so many ways, but it just makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So we also very easily influence each other into bad behaviors. You know what I mean? So the momentum can go one way or the other. We can influence each other to be fucking creative as hell all day long and do amazing things together, and just like complete awesome projects together that we need to get done or want to get done or whatever. But it can go the other way too.
That's why I love that, even if I am not, in the mood to exercise or whatever the case may be, I'll be like, but don't stop asking me.
Yeah,
always
that's a good
ask
way to
She
do it.
shamed me that I didn't ask her the one time. She
Yeah,
goes,
one time I was like, oh, you're not going to ask me? But I wasn't going to do it anyway.
No, I was like, well, you haven't been working out with me. She goes, well, you didn't ask. I was like, well, because last time I asked you, you got offended as if I called you overweight. You know, this is how
Women work.
Okay, this is how women now.
Yes,
This is
yes.
how
Sorry.
Mimi likes
It's
to.
women. It's not
But
just
I
my
do, but
wife.
I do like
it's
that
every
he,
woman.
that he continues to ask, and eventually I'll give in and be capable.
Yeah, because I like we turn things into games. Like we were
do.
playing hillbilly golf.
What is the real
Nice.
name of that? I forget
It's
what it's
really
called.
called
Is
hillbilly
it?
golf.
I did not buy hillbilly golf.
No, she bought
Is that just when you get
ball.
you just get?
Ladder
I thought you just like drink Jameson and play golf. No, and like then you get kicked out of the country club because you're not a member.
No,
And you
it's
fall
like
asleep on the 9th hole anyway, and your dad gets really mad.
We should play pickleball that way.
It's like 2 golf balls on a string, but they're filled with sand, and there's 3 bars that you got to toss it, and you got to get it on one of the bars. The bottom one's the most points,
I've
and then
played
the middle.
that.
Ladder ball, yeah.
Yes, ladder ball or
fun.
whatever. Yes, that shit's
It's
awesome.
something to do,
Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, how about have you ever heard of cornhole?
Yes,
yeah,
that's a
good
big thing
one.
down here. I have some Eagles cornhole boards.
Yeah,
on my
well, it's
What
her,
about what about my personal favorite, Can Jam?
Never played that.
I've never
Okay.
heard of that.
For anyone
Uh-oh.
listening as well, you have to look up Can Jam, especially if you like to get together with your
Scared.
friends and go out into a nowhere's land and just smoke
I feel like I
pot
need to
and
look this
drink
up right
and
now.
play frisbee and shit like that. Because my friends and I used to just go somewhere and play frisbee and shoot the shit and have fires and stuff. And Can Jam is the greatest game ever because you got 2 cylindrical, hollow things with slits on the front and the hole in the top, right? And you throw a frisbee back and forth, and you have your teammate on the opposite side, kind of like cornhole. And if your teammate, smashes it in the top, that's a certain amount of points. But if you get it in the slit, that's a certain amount of points and shit. And if you get it in the top by yourself, it's like you win or whatever. But there's 2 of them on either
looks
side
hard.
and everything. It's the sickest game if you like frisbee. I know I sound like a wicked fucking hippie right now.
Is that kind of like what's the other one? Frisbee golf? Is it kind of like that?
Frisbee golf is more for like the adventurous stoner in the woods. You're carrying around an actual like quote unquote golf bag of disc golfs and everything. Some of them have radios and GPS and fucking coolers and stuff built in. And you're going around to different goals that people have like bought land and set up actual tournaments. I've never done that before. That's pretty intense. But
yeah, it sounds like a lot of work.
The Can Jam is just a fun, quick setup. You throw it in your trunk and boom, you set it up.
Maybe we'll have to get that. That'll
we'll
be like
probably get
next
that.
on the game list.
Yeah, you can't jam unless you can jam.
We love doing the outdoors parties in the spring, summer, and fall. It's kind of just 1 9 or 10 month season here is just summer. And it's already started
season all year.
I think Kate and I are going to have to come down and visit you. We'll bring Finn sometime.
Absolutely. You're always welcome.
I mean, it was 80 degrees the last like several days already. Clear skies. It was pouring rain this morning, and then it was 80 degrees.
Yeah, it was
and
beautiful
sunny.
after that.
Yeah, not a cloud.
That's awesome. It was 30 degrees today.
Oh,
but
man.
that's really warm.
Yeah, by Wednesday it's going to be in the 80s.
Okay.
But it goes up and down. Like you wake up and you don't know what temperature it's going to be until you open the door and you're like, oh, it's cold out today.
Yeah, it's cold out for like 10 minutes. Like it's not cold. Like she's lived down here so long she forgets what it's like in the north at this time of year.
It's funny. I lived in Central Oregon for a while years ago, and it's right in the middle. It's like surrounded by the Cascade Mountains, and where I was, they didn't even have snow plows all the way up in Oregon because the snow would come and it would be like that friggin' Dippin' Dots ice cream of the future. It would just be like that because you're
lick it and it's gone.
Like 11,000 feet in elevation up there, just walking around on the streets. And it would just litter the ground with like an inch of those guys. And then by afternoon, it would be totally gone and the sun would be out and it would be 80 degrees. It was the weirdest place.
Sounds pretty though.
Yeah, it was a really nice place. No snow plows yet snowing like intermittently.
I lived in Montana for 6 months, and that was
Ooh.
definitely snowplows there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but definitely
monster
different
trucks.
kind of cold though. I mean, it's cold, but it's not like cold,
Yeah.
even though the temperature's low.
I lived in a prison for
And I didn't have a blanket,
for
so it's
7
pretty
months.
cold.
This one prison, and we had to walk about 3/4 of
Oh,
a
I remember.
mile to and from meals.
The chow hall.
Yeah, chow hall 3 times a day. So it was 3/4 of a mile. It snowed every day, literally every day, because it's in the middle of the mountains, and the wind would be whipping in your face, and it was terrible. We weren't allowed to have
Jesus.
hoods either, or I mean, you could have hats if you bought one on commissary, but it
Oh my
was
God.
it was brutal. A lot of people would be like, "Nah, I'm
Gives me
not.
the
I'm not
chills.
eating today." You know, just
Yeah, I can imagine.
get some ramen.
Jesus. That's
Yeah.
fucking nuts. And I can definitely relate because when I would go hiking in the wintertime, like you can't do anything in the cold. You just break down. You don't want to do anything. So
Yeah.
3/4 of a mile without like a fucking hood or anything.
Wind whipping
That's
in your face.
oh my God, that's
And
brutal.
yeah, and the COs, you couldn't talk. You know, there was none of that, and we had to walk 2 by 2. So we were all in formation, and if we had women at this prison, and if they were coming off of their block, then we would have to stop and wait, and let them go a certain distance ahead of us, and whatnot. So it was just like so wild.
Damn. That's intense.
Yeah.
Mm.
So Mimi, you've been reading a very intense book this week. We should talk about that a
Yes.
little bit.
What's it called?
It's called The Language Crystal. I keep calling it the Crystal Codes. Like every time somebody asks me, I'm like, oh, it's the Crystal Code. And I'm like, no, it's the Language Crystal, but it's the same thing. Fascinating. I'm like 6 chapters in, 50 something pages in, and I just like I want to keep reading. And I hate that I have to read it on my phone screen because I am too cheap to like buy
Read
the
on the computer.
$190 book,
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How
But
much it
it's
is.
so full of like I want to send them screenshots all the time and highlight parts, and
Yeah.
it's so. Did you start it at all?
I haven't been able to. I opened it
Oh
and then I
man,
just
it
haven't had a
goes
chance to, but
through
I'm
like
going to. I've got a couple books I need to read.
it is kind of like
Mimi, you should just print it out and make your own book.
I should.
There you go.
At somebody else's house.
I used to do it at work.
Like, yeah, well, I can't do that anymore.
This is your work now.
This is my work now. Yeah, I use my printer now.
There you go.
But it is like politics, religion, numerology, astrology, biology. It's like
magic.
all these things, and it's word magic, and it's numbers and words. Really, it
That's awesome.
gets into like presidents and what their names mean, and then things that they do, and then certain numbers they try to use to make it seem like the Bible is, Revelations is happening, and there's always something organic that happens that like f's it up for them. Like they try to make 144 this or 14.4 this or 1.4 this, and it always gets messed up.
I've heard about something like
with the number 18 and multiples of 6, of course 666, but
369.
Well, I think it's the 666 equals 18, so there's a lot of 18 talked about in there, but
And 1 plus 8
names,
equals 9.
I know you'll love the word magic because when they go through names of people and places, and then they talk about the situation that's happening at the time, it just
There's like imposters.
puzzle pieces go together so easy.
There's like a Reagan and a Regan.
Yeah, there's like a Reagan and a Regan.
There's always like
a
imposters.
baker and a backer.
Yeah, they're so closely named.
It's so weird how it's like our reality itself,
What did I
this
say was
very physical plane that we're all in with politics and all these people and everything. We have legitimate conspiracy theories that go as deep as like dark cults and bad shit. Yet at the same time, I think even beyond the control or maybe even awareness of some of those controlling groups is this bigger, like
it's so big
play or weird a cartoon. It's
like multiple things just converge.
Well,
and
it's a
there's
crystal, so it's like fractal. I mean, it's
I
a
like
literal
that.
crystal. It's a literal itty bitty pieces all put together. that form this one thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm always saying that like this fractal that we're all a part of and we're all our own fractals and everything, it's all echoes of this original thing or this.
Yes.
And
Talks about that too.
Terrence McKenna would call it the transcendental object at the end of time. And I loved that. I loved it. It was perfect because it kind of fits the description of what I'm talking about, but it's
like
also at the beginning of time.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's why I say it's the same play is happening just with different characters, like all the time. And it's the same thing repeating itself on larger and smaller scales. So, I see it in a very specific way that it is exactly a Fibonacci spiral, and it's just branching off on larger and smaller scales, and it's like going, so it's not just looping around on a flat plane, but it's going up, it's going down, and it's like this whole thing, and it's this mystery to us that we're trying to figure out. But I think we're at a place in time, space and time now, that we're getting very close to the center.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Terrence also would say that time would speed up. Did you ever get into his time wave zero?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So look it up when you have some time, or I'll try to send you some links. I don't even know if it's operational anymore, but it used to be a site that you could actually go on and use it. And it was like this mathematical equation he came up with using the I Ching and shit like that. How everything was counting down, but not counting down. It was like novelty was increasing, if that makes any sense. Like novelty itself was speeding up and increasing. Its girth, its strength, whatever. It was kind of coming to this point, like as if everything in reality was heading towards this point in time or something like that.
Sure. Yeah. I always say it's like coming to the bottleneck, the point.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Like there's no other way. We're going to get there eventually.
Right.
All
And they
roads
know
lead
it.
to that.
There's like a group, it seems, that knows it, but they also know that they're doomed in the process of that or something.
Yeah, and I just described it the other day on the I was on the Monday Night Master Debaters, where everything's coming to a bottleneck, but because it's squeezing so much at the top, everything else is just floating out through the sides, and it's little pieces of information that weren't ever available before are now seemingly available. Like weird things that the NIH is doing a study of how 5G and coronavirus are related, like stuff like that's happening. I mean, it's
and
just
AIDS, apparently.
Well, yeah,
which is also in the book.
So many different weird things are just occurring from this bottlenecking of trying to make everything so fake and control, or sorry, trying to make everything so controlled that it becomes so fake, and then so much just leaks out because they aren't containing everything the way that it once was. They're putting more effort towards the top because for whatever reason they don't want the top to pop off, but it's seemingly they can't stop it because as they let everything else seep out through the sides, then the top still raises up. I mean, there's really no stopping it.
Yeah, it's a house of cards, right? And their lies compound. And I think they've been duct taping shit and filling holes in their submarine for thousands of years, it seems, or hundreds or something like that. Like
that's right.
They're constantly having to adapt and evolve lies as well, because of us.
And it just gets harder and harder because if you've ever told a lie, I mean, you've got to keep it going with more lies and more lies and more lies. And then you forget your lies and you change your lies. So eventually it comes in and bites you in the ass.
Well, that's why.
And then you start to pepper in the truth. You start to, once everything's really groovy, you can start to pepper in a little bit of the truth and hope that you'll be scot-free, but the people will, find out or whatever.
Yeah,
it's
lies
very
of
weird.
omission. Those are
it's
my favorite.
Revelation of method.
Well, you get weird things like Lou Elizondo with I saw you tweeted this out that he is saying that a classified document, it was unclassified, and it says it right at the top of the document, unclassified, and he's he's saying on this podcast, like, oh, he's like 3-4 times. He's like, this, it was classified. It was
Yeah.
classified. And it's like, well, no, it wasn't. You're just saying that. Like, why are you just saying that? And it's just so many things are just so stupid. They just don't expect you to ever check the receipt. You know, it's like someone who works at Walmart or Home Depot that they'll ring you up for something extra and then they'll keep the money and then they'll expect you to never check the receipt. I mean, it's just really that simple.
Elizondo fascinates me, like whether he's a fucking actor or like a real retired or ex whatever DOD member.
Are they ever ex though?
Exactly. So, but like,
yeah, they just came from a different department.
regardless of his actual role, he's one person that I probably never will, but I would absolutely love to talk to. And unfortunately, most of my questions, most of them would end with, I can't answer that. You know, it wouldn't be a minority of questions. I would accidentally take the interview in all the wrong places, most likely.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing with anyone who's ex intelligence agency or ex secret society. To me, I take everything with a grain of salt. I mean, I'll say someone like New York Patriot and Lux who are exposing things. Now that's a little different.
Yeah.
But still, when I see someone says that they're a Freemason, like someone who's a celebrity that comes out and is exposing Freemasonry, but they're not actually giving you anything more than what you can already find out there.
There is, it's all out there.
Yeah, so like there was an X Factor winner who I was emailing with, and I mean, it's just this guy was. I don't think that he's actually out of the Freemasons. Because I watched his 5-hour thing on taking down the Freemasons, and it was nothing new at all. It was, but and he's claimed that he was saved by Jesus Christ in this car accident, which it could have been true. Apparently, there was some car accident. Now, I don't know all the details of it, but just the way that he interacted, it was all divisionist tactics. There was nothing that was out of the playbook of Freemasonry in how he was treating me, how he was speaking with me. And when I see people that are still acting that way, now maybe it's just ingrained into them, you know, maybe it's pattern behaviors or whatever. But when you come out and say like, oh yeah, I was a Freemason or I'm a current Freemason, and you think people should trust you when you took an oath to not ever give up anything with the group, like you have to do that. That's the first thing you do. Like, I don't understand why anyone who is in there thinks that they should be trusted by anyone else.
I think it's a complex thing. I would love to ask one of my best friends. I'm actually going hiking tomorrow morning with one of my best friends, and he was actually on episode 5, I think, of the Deep Share. His name is Bucks Mulder on the show.
I think I might have listened to it.
I think I might have too, because that sounds very familiar.
And honestly, like I would have loved to have him on like 10 episodes in a row. Honestly, the dude is the deepest dude I've ever met. And similar, he's like a recovering addict from a long ago, and he's gone through so many different phases of life that he's learned so much from, and he's been a meditator for 25 years probably. He's very intense. Like, you and him would have an epic conversation, right?
Probably what I got the chills for.
But Freemasonry was one of the things that absolutely saved his life, and he's a Freemason. So I have an interesting relationship with Freemasonry, because like what I've learned from the shit that's actually already out there and has been for many, many years, because people leave the Brotherhood and fucking write books. You know, the secret, quote unquote, that Freemasonry is like hermetic for the most part is really not a secret. But I hate the idea that that the symbolism itself is all evil. Think about it. We're dealing with magicians. We're dealing with sleight of hand. So if anything, they really like to play up and make people think that way, for sure. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Yeah, we're
also
in a very dualistic world, so nothing can be all one thing, all
right, and
bad, all
yeah,
good.
especially when we're dealing with folks that love to hijack good things and
Yeah.
true things and make them their own or get ahead of the curve and try to own
Right.
things. And
Mhm.
when you listen to like people like Matt LaCroix, who makes a lot of good historical points about the patterns of this eagle versus serpent war and how the secret societies were originally kind of put together in a way, or at least at this time period, to um, protect the secret knowledge from people that would use it for bad, kind of like fucking Darth Vader,
I
Star
don't even
Wars,
have
the
such a
Force.
distaste for that word anymore.
Which one?
Secret, because it's not.
Right. It's not secret. So sacred wisdom, should I say,
Right.
of, what it really is all about or whatever the initiation is, right? Using it for bad. They don't want people using it for bad. So they were trying to keep it secret. But then, as Matt LaCroix describes it, it was just kind of a constant warring and a constant faction change where like these secret societies were never constantly controlled by the good guys. It was always like being taken over and taken back and this and that. It was kind of like the story of the Holy Grail, chasing it
Yeah.
everywhere,
The imposter syndrome. It's
Hmm.
always been that. And I think it's the Royal Masons. Once you get in, I think it was the 30th
Yes.
degree, they're the ones that are running everything. They created Freemasonry, which is a weird term when you start to look into
Mm,
ancient history. They found all everything's founded by the Freemasons because the
right.
masonry was free. So they created that as their public front. So like people who are low level Freemasons, they talk about it openly, and it does help them because it's a men's group, and like you go there with your drinking buddy or whatever, and you can learn spirituality, you can learn all sorts of different stuff. But once you get into like that 30th degree, like there's
33rd. Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely things that you're doing that you're never going to talk about
That are more
outside of
secret.
a certain spot.
I was just looking up the etymology of the word secret because I was like, what? Now I'm curious of every word ever.
Absolutely. You should
And
look
it's
more
just
into Box
separate and
Saga,
set
Mimi.
apart. So that,
Yeah.
makes sense to me that it's a separate thing.
I would honestly send you my copy of Box Saga, an introduction. It's like 200 pages. You would,
Mm.
if you're fascinated by the book you're reading, which I think I'm going to love too,
Yeah, I think you
you would
will.
love the introduction. And Immanuel, of course, if you haven't read it
And
directly,
I've
I
heard
think
you
you'd
guys
like it
talk
too.
about. I don't
Yeah, I
think I
haven't
was
read
in that
it.
conversation. Was I here for
Yeah, you were
Box Saga
here,
a little
but
bit?
Well,
yeah,
let me
Dan
tell
was
you,
here doing a lot of talking.
Dan and I both will tell anybody that we go on their show to talk about Box Saga that we don't want to get too much into the language itself because we dumb Americans will kind of butcher what the
Right.
miraculous shit about it is.
Yeah.
So reading the book Box Saga: An Introduction by Carl Borgen is a great look into it. The same way you're reading that book and having your mind blown page
Yeah.
by page, the diagrams showing it, getting
Yep.
visual learners involved
Pictures are
too.
great.
It's really it puts it together for you. It shows the alphabet because Box Saga is all about the sound system. It's all about phonetics. It's all about
Mhm.
the resonance of the sound frequencies of what you're saying and how if any syllable is changed, which happens when
So
you put the black ink on the white paper, as soon as that happens and the story isn't orally passed down anymore, it can be changed very easily. And
And
with Box
languages can become
Saga,
coded.
right.
so this book starts out with a story about a dyslexic little boy and his switching the R's and L's
Interesting.
around. And there's something about switching R's and L's around with like Jerusalem, Israel, all these things, which I haven't gotten to the bottom of yet. But in Box Saga, is there something about the R's and the L's at all that you know of?
I could look into it and get back to you. They both have
I'm not sure if it's a sound thing or a, I'm not sure
yeah, so
what the switch is.
so
Yeah.
in the root language of Box Saga, R, I believe, is R and L is L. So I'll have to look into it and see what it was. But
Yeah. So like
that's interesting too, because like
the
R and L is like don't certain language they certain languages can't say certain letters in other languages too. And also when you're a kid, you like, I think L's are really hard for my son right now or something, or maybe it's and he replaces them with R's sometimes and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
I think so. Is that the letters he used? Maybe.
Probably.
Probably. Who knows? But that, I'm gonna like this book.
The story is like the kid is drawing a picture and he's saying "cown." He's deleting that second letter, and so everybody thinks that he's going to draw a crown, but he's not. He's drawing a clown with a crown on his head. So they had to like wait till he drew this picture. But the whole thing was they almost corrected him before he drew anything because they thought they knew what he was saying. But anyway, that's the beginning of the book.
That almost says everything.
And then you get into the ancients not even using vowels because they were so sacred. Now all of a sudden you're really interpreting nothing. I mean,
the Roman and the Greek,
you're just throwing things in there. Yeah, and what you found today with the Greek was it was mirrored until the Romans got there, and now it's the way that we say it. But before that, it was like as if they found something that was used to print, and instead of putting it face down to print, they just left it face up and copied it, and then it was mirrored.
So every Greek letter that you see, there's a little picture in the book, and then they show like the Roman alphabet underneath, and it's the complete mirror of every single one. Yeah, it's very strange.
Language is
there are some pictures and interesting drawings in there.
Yeah,
anyway,
all leads back to Rome until Rome has to lead somewhere.
I think Rome has always been trying to lead, but has never been truly in the lead.
Yeah, Rome. It's weird too that like our capital here in America, our capital was built in Rome, Maryland, where there are the 7 hills.
Our capital doesn't even really belong to us, does it?
Then
no, it's the District of Columbia.
Right,
it's its own sovereign nation,
right?
But it does own the corporation of the United States.
Right.
That's always a rabbit hole I want to go into.
Rome, Georgia, is where the Cherokee Indians had slaves, and they said that Rome, Italy was a copy of Rome, Georgia being the original Rome. So there's so many weird things.
Yeah,
like, it's all Fibonacci sequence. I mean, it could be all of them. I really do believe that the Americas were where civilization started, and then it was taken over to the old world as we know it, and it was just copied from America and then brought back here, and they called it the New World, but it wasn't the New World, it was the original world.
Maybe. Could be. I mean, it's
so much
weird.
Information.
I wonder if the origin point...
Information.
I mean, I don't even know. Where would the origin point happen? I mean...
Well, according
is
to
there an origin point? You know,
according to the I can't think Mormons, it's Missouri. Jackson, Missouri is the Garden of Eden, which is where that the earthquakes hit that reversed the Mississippi River. All hit right there in Missouri.
Oh, hey, wow! You just made me think of something. So,
me too, but it doesn't have anything to do with
a friend of mine told me that I should look up a bunch of Mormon like ceremonies on YouTube and shit because they're eerily familiar if you know about Freemasonry,
and
that like some of the oldest Freemasonic rituals and stuff are present in like everyday Mormonism or something like that. It's a whole different look at Joseph Smith being quote unquote like chased across the country and shit. It paints everything in a very different light. I'll have to get more info on it and report back because it's probably something that we could look into.
Yeah, Well, I mean, when you look into 1776 and they started America to have religious freedom, no, they
Mm.
started America to not be persecuted for doing satanic worship. That's really what it was. There was Rosicrucianism. They were
The Rosy
Chris,
Cross.
yeah, the Christians by day and Satanists by night, which is the
Are you reading my shirt?
Luciferians. No, what's that? Mama by day, entrepreneur by night. No, but,
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what the difference between a Luciferian and a Satanist is the Luciferians pretend to be something in the public eye, but then behind closed doors, there's something very different, where the Satanists are just very out in the open. But they're probably doing the same types of things, when you get into the real evil stuff, it's probably
The
about the same
ritual stuff,
things.
yeah.
Mm. It's weird too that like we can have total asshat douchebags like these people we're talking about in these groups, but meanwhile we can look at like some of the most ancient interpretations, and I really like to look at like the more alchemical and sacred geometrical interpretations of certain things that
You're gonna love this so much.
these negative forces that we talk about as like Satan or Lucifer are more like archetypes that not that they're not real, but they're negative forces, or that they're lower energy,
Mhm.
and stuff like that, and that
Yeah.
we end up personifying as much as we can about these things. You know what I mean? Not that they're
Yeah,
not real.
right.
We get
'Cause
we
that's what we do, we make words for things, and then we give them meaning,
Exactly, and we bring
and
them
then
to
they're stuck
life.
with us.
Right.
Absolutely, and
I
we've created a force, a monster
Mhm.
that has no boundaries on this earth and can do whatever it wants. So that manifests in a number of different like physical, human ways, and it's
Mhm.
it's nature always seems to find a way to make uh the supernatural in our heads come out very naturally
Mhm.
in real
Yeah.
life. You can never prove it. The universe is always winking at us in this
Yeah.
realm.
I got a quote unquote download when I was listening to people talk about Lucifer and give like the history of Lucifer, and the information I received was a Lucifer is somebody who brings moral and immoral knowledge. He just gives you all of it.
Yep.
And
And you
a
choose.
a
Mhm.
Satan is someone who gives you good and immoral knowledge and like pushes the
Tempts you.
immoral. No, the Satan was the adversary. He was always
Yes.
doing the immoral stuff.
Right.
Then the devil was someone who was tempting you to do immoral so that he could be the one to punish you. And it
Interesting.
and like I was told, like Samael was the one who became Lucifer, then he became Satan, then he became the devil. He became the devil in order to make up for what he did when he became Lucifer. So it was like this whole cycle. And
Hmm.
then we take that story, and because everything happens in a Fibonacci sequence, it's happening over and over on different scales,
Mhm.
that different people at different times were doing similar things, and then it gets so convoluted and confusing to us because a whole bunch of simulations somehow merged together, and it wasn't
Yes.
supposed to happen that way.
Sometimes we get pieces of one part of the spiral,
Yeah.
and we get pieces of another level of the
Yep.
spiral, and we try to
Mhm.
put those two like conspiracy theories together,
Right.
thinking that we're going to be able to form a straight line out of them and lead
Mhm.
back to, follow the money or something, and you
Right.
can't do it because you're finding pieces that are part of the mystery, whether it
Right.
be in very dense physical humanity like politics, some secret there, or some deep rooted hermetic secret or something like that.
Mhm.
They could be two very different levels of the mystery, and you're going to try to fit them onto the same line, and it's not curved that
Right,
way.
it's like
It's
climbing down a rabbit hole and hitting a dead end and having to come back up and start again.
Yeah, and honestly, a good way to look at that is the spiral anyway, because you're not going in a circle. going up and around. You're coming back to the same place from a better perspective, hopefully a better, because it can go either way too. You know.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm gonna have Esoteric Eddie on in a few days.
That's
and,
cool.
he wrote the mysteries of Lucifer revealed, so we're gonna get into that as well as other things that I got planned. I don't want to reveal it here, but yeah, that'll be a really good episode.
That's all.
Yeah, when you
probably have him on too.
Yeah, he's great. When we were on that Rising from the Ashes roundtable, a god, yeah. I mean, it was like some Jedi mind stuff going on between all of us that were there. I mean,
that's
it was
awesome. I think I missed that one too. Oh man, that would have been great.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think you were supposed to be on there, but yeah, you weren't. But yeah, you should definitely check that out if you haven't got to listen to that one yet.
And we have a group thing coming up too.
Yeah, next Saturday.
Yeah, that's gonna be excellent.
Yeah, for sure.
That'll be cool.
Yeah, Deplorable Janet.
I miss Janet. I haven't seen Janet in a while. That'll be great. I got to see her in. I got to see her on my Colorado trip earlier this year. That was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Man.
Yep, it was great. And then I fell asleep because I was up till like 5 a.m. with everybody, just hanging out and loving life and meeting people from like legit Baton. We've got together, and then Janet showed up from like 2 hours away, and I was like, "Hi!" I gave her a big hug, and I went to sleep.
Yeah, I wasn't in the community then.
Man, we need to like plan
a
trip somewhere and get like a bunch of little Airbnbs and just kind of hang.
For real, definitely.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, Brandon Thomas will be
rent
there
like
as
a house,
well.
a big ass house, and we'll have like our own little. Well, I don't want to say Big Brother because I don't want it like that, but but our own little cool hangout.
Brandon is awesome. I love doing round tables and podcasts with Brandon. He's just such a sweet dude.
Janet and Brandon, are their partners going to be on? Is Kate going to be on?
That is still to be determined.
Yeah, let's not even.
Couples
let's not even.
No.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, we'll see. We'll just see because
we'll see if she's capable that night.
Because it is like February, even though we all know that it's some kind of holiday for rituals,
corporate fucking companies.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of different stuff going on, but there are a lot of normies who are just doing loving things for the sake of love in this month. So I was having it on my mind. I'm like, I want to do something. I like to do the theme of what's going on in society. And then I was just like, you know what, let's do this. And I sent it out to a bunch of people, the three of you guys who I know are all healing yourselves and each other in your relationships. And I was like, let's invite the Mrs. or Mr. Alongside so that we could all get on there and give our perspectives. I think doing things like that is what my podcast started as, just giving your stories. And it helps people in so many different ways. That's what I want to do things for, is I want to help people. So I think us just coming on there and kicking it, having a good time talking about it, that'll help so many different couples, because it's not only entertaining, it's wonderful guest and podcast host, but it's also informative, and it's a way that people can better themselves.
Yeah, and I want to say that I really love listening to you and Kate on your
Oh, thank you.
I do, and I feel like Kate is where I was like, I don't want to go on camera, I don't want to go on audio, I don't want to be
not there yet.
Yeah, I just want to be on the side writing notes, and if I have a question, maybe I'll whisper it to you. I don't even want people to hear me, but like, I feel like I was there in that spot, and I'm so glad that he's always like, do you want to do an episode? Do you want?
No pressure.
You're going to be in the camera. You're going to be in the camera this time. No, really, you need to be in the camera. And he's not that he's forcing me, but he's kind of just pushing me along. And I'm so much more comfortable today than I was like bonus episode 1. I don't even think I was on camera for bonus episode 1.
She was out back on her cell phone.
Yeah, I was. I wasn't even in the house. I was like as far away from this room as possible. So I want to hear more from Kate for sure, and eventually I would love to meet Kate on video, and maybe in person. I would love to get together with you guys. Totally.
Oh yeah, we'll make that
Yeah.
all of those things happen for sure.
Yeah,
We'll have to do a dual
I'm
worship,
excited.
worship in the healing, or heal in the storm, or something.
Worship during the
Yeah.
healing. Hey, that's how you heal, you worship while you're healing,
There
really.
you go. Yeah,
Kinda.
exactly.
It happened. I was kinda, like, saying a little prayer on the way home, like, I thought I was gonna be an hour late, and I really wasn't. I was,
Yeah, like 10
maybe, like,
minutes.
10 minutes?
Nice.
And I was just like, "Thank you for making that possible." Like, I was stressing out that I was gonna be an hour late, and I was gonna miss everything, but, hey, it worked out, and thank you.
Yeah, because
Thank
Yeah.
you.
she's a stress box. Before she left, she told me she was going to be a half hour late. Then she texted me. She goes, "It got pushed back a half hour," and I could
It
feel the
did.
rage coming out.
Because, paint parties it takes 3 hours usually for people to paint stuff, like one
Yeah.
thing. It
Oh yeah.
takes 3 hours, and, you gotta help them along, and then there's talking, so people stop painting, and you're like, keep painting. I gotta go." But it was really relaxing today. I got to paint. Everybody else was chill and having a good time, so I was like it was very free flowing and not stressful at all. So
Sweet.
I just said a little thank you on the way home, like, "Thank you so much."
Yeah, and the best part about doing the podcast with her is that it's not taking time away from her. Our time together. And it makes us both want to do more. So it's made it easy for me to do 3-4 episodes in a week because I can do the editing for an episode now, both video and audio. I'm done within 45 minutes.
Nice.
And so that's just a little bit extra after we're together and we're planning things. We're listening to this guest and prepping things together. So it brings us closer together by doing the show together. So it's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's kind of what I was thinking about earlier in like when I was like doing the deep share for a while, and I was like, I want to get Kate on so bad, and she was like starting to really turn on to so many of the same things and coming back around to things that I kind of freaked her out with earlier on, and now she was like coming around to them and stuff. And so it's been a long road, and now doing the podcast where there's exactly that. It's like we get to spend more quality time together. We're not like
You
on the
guys are
couch.
hilarious together. I love it.
We
I
are.
love it.
It's great. And like, a lot of times we get stagnant, just like any couple can, where we'll just sit on the couch at night after the kid goes to sleep. It's exhausting, after working and parenting and all of the routine.
Cooking and cleaning and cleaning up floods.
Yeah. And then suddenly it's just, okay, silence. And it's like, yeah, we do put on the TVs a lot of times, or, we will have good conversations, but now that we're doing this together, I find we're able to spend more time together, because before the stagnation, you just get kind of bored and you end up doing your own things. You kiss each other and say, all right, I'll be up in a little while. And I go down to the studio and I do stuff, and she stays up and does her own thing a lot of times, because that just happens sometimes,
Yeah.
But with this, we're just ending up spending more time together, and we come up with new ideas for the show now. And it's just, we're more involved with each other. And I kept telling her for a long time, because she's been trying to find her voice, her purpose, what she wants to do, how she can help out there. And I'm not telling her this has to be the way, because of course, naturally she feels like, well, okay, that's Andy's thing. I don't want to like suddenly just, slog on to Andy's podcasting thing and suddenly, but that's the thing. She doesn't have it's not just because she's doing it doesn't mean it has to be the only thing she does. If she doesn't feel like she needs to have, if she needs to have her own special, unique thing, which is art usually, she loves art and she's amazing at it. And eventually people will see it, but that's another thing she's kind of gradually allowing. But, if she wants to have her own thing, this just gives more confidence, more trust in yourself to put yourself out there with other people and have these kind of conversations with the public is empowering, and it feels good. And that's kind of what I've been pushing for. I'm sure you did too before Mimi came on, it's just like, I know you're going to benefit from this.
Yeah, and I'm
even
like,
if
no, I'm not. I don't want anybody to see my face or know me or want to talk to me or,
Yeah.
I hate people.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
I
yeah,
would
yeah.
do mine live on Facebook.
I don't hate people.
On my Facebook page, just so she could be part of the conversation, listening to it live while I'm doing it, because she wanted to be part of it, but
Right.
But not really.
Yeah.
The jump
so-
from passive to forward, it's just
And now, now I'm like, I don't want to hijack your show, but I have all these questions for this guest.
But I
like-
love it because
Yeah,
it makes my
no.
job easier. I
He's like,
don't
"It's
want
your
to have
show
to
too."
carry things. Yeah.
Oh, and listen, if Kate had randomly said, like, do you think I could just host a deep share with you, which she never would say, I would gladly say hell yeah. And who knows, deep healing may not have existed, that might have been a sideshow or something, because the chemistry between you guys is fucking phenomenal. And I know that our chemistry is great, and I feel more confident with her there too. She's my rock, right? So
She's
it
like
helps
me, where
to have
she
your
comes in
grounding
with
point.
like the little funny, witty things.
Oh, she's she's a
I would do
something.
more, but I don't want to get in trouble. No.
she's brutal and she's hilarious. Like, she was definitely a stand-up comic in a past life or something.
I feel like I was too.
Yeah.
But
the
yeah,
sarcasm and the dry humor is all me.
yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, you guys will get along great, and it'll be hilarious to get us all together for sure.
Yeah. Can't wait for that day. We're counting on you, Kate. I don't know if you're listening.
I
but
appreciate you, Kate, and I appreciate
we
hearing
love
you.
listening to it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you do. Thank you.
Yeah, Mimi told me episode 2 was out. I was like, oh yeah, let me go down.
Like, I already listened to it.
Yeah, and I've been putting them out on the deep share feed, but for anybody that's out there maybe listening that wants to hear it or has already and liked it, please go to our new RSS feed. The link is in the deep shares description as well, because we're trying to get people following over there too.
Right.
It's its own entity thing. I don't necessarily want, if we start having guests on, I have a feeling we're going to be reaching out to a lot of people that if I reach out with the deep share and they start looking at my content, some of them say no pretty quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to get that reaction from deep healing guests, hopefuls.
Right.
We want to reach out to people that, would never touch a conspiracy podcast. And that's okay with me. I don't care if they agree with that shit or not. You don't have to, because it's all fractal, man, especially when you're talking about
I like
healing.
that idea.
Yeah. But I like doing it the way I just put it
You're
all
doing
on
it
my
fine.
one.
You're doing it fine in the way you have it framed. It's
I'm
fine.
just like, I'm all over
he's
the
more
place.
like, if they don't want to talk to me, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't, they don't wanna
That's
talk to
totally
me.
fine too. Yeah, and I'm fine with the deep share. I know that I will reach out to people and I'll put it out there and really hope that it'll happen. But there's just certain personalities that I know will not be okay with certain things I even touch because they're afraid of their reputation or something.
Well, it's weird when I reach out to certain people that I feel would be perfect fit for everything I talk about, and then I don't even get like any response. Like I get that usually it's with the larger podcasts or people with a larger following, YouTube following, whatever, and probably they get bombarded with things at times. I'm sure that they're always getting asked, so they go and look at mine and see 500 subscribers. They're like, nah, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, but see, everybody had to start somewhere, so that's
I'm
what
not
I
saying
kind of
that's
like
always
about
the
our
case, but-
our.
I also don't even
group,
think
but-
it's a personal thing. I think, just like all of us right now, like at our level of just enjoying this and having a good time and hoping more people are listening and whatever. We're just having fun with it. But like at this level, when I get a new follower of any kind, I'm always looking at everything they're doing. Like, what are they doing? Who are they? Maybe that's silly. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. I try.
Like
I don't
stalking
keep up
all
with
your
that all
followers?
the time, but I like doing that. But if I had like 15,000 followers or something like that, I think I would have a real hard time trying to do that. And if there was a lot of people reaching out, you could do the same thing. And then after that amount that was reaching out hit a certain breaking level, eventually it's kind of, I don't know, how do you even filter your time to to do that, to find okay, well, this guy wrote something nice, but he could be completely insane, and I may not want to waste my time there, or that.
Right.
And I know that's skeptical to think that way, but I think people are always going to try to be realistic with their time and their own frame of what they're into and stuff like that. And I know that that's happened to me. It happened to me recently. I reached out to some guy that talks a lot about like the universe and shit, but he's kind of controversial. He's not like a full-blown weirdo like us, but like, hey, he's interesting. He's a smart guy. And I got an interesting response. It was just simply like, hey, thanks for reaching out. No thanks.
Yeah.
Kind of. I don't want to.
And so I straight up, I'm like, I've never gotten that response before. And like, I'm just curious, honestly. Like, do you have a reason? Is my content offensive or something? And they were like, well, I looked at your page and it didn't feel right for my body.
Okay.
Yeah, I had.
That's a weird answer.
I'll mention no names.
I had something similar.
He was honest.
Probably the same guy. No.
No. I had something similar happen to me where I matched with this one person on Podmatch. Well, we didn't match. They contacted me, and usually people, they're trying to sell yourself on there, that they're sending you paragraphs of things. He's sending like 2 sentences, and I'm like,
hey, can I be on your show? No, I'm just
yeah. So I was like, I don't want to say no because maybe he has something good. So like, I'll ask him something, and then he responds with like one sentence, and like I was like dragging information out of him. It was like weeks in the making. We finally set something up, and we were going to talk about Jesus's life. He was a pastor, and we were going to talk about Jesus's life. So I'm like, all right, perfect. I lined things up in a certain way, and then 2 days before he goes, I'm going to have to cancel that. So I'm like, you're going to, like, I didn't want to do it in the first place, but you convinced me to do it with you. And then you're canceling. Why did you cancel? He goes, well, honestly, it was something in my spirit said not to do it. Like, what do you mean? Like, these Christians are so afraid of the truth that they don't want to come talk. Like, I'm all Jesus ale all the time. I mean,
I know, right?
All I talk about
bling,
is
bling, Jesus.
Yeah.
It's not just for the podcast.
No,
I say that all the time. It's all day, every day.
And they're just afraid of the full truth. They don't actually observe faith in Jesus Christ, that Jesus Christ is, if I am wrong, Jesus Christ will correct me. I don't understand how people don't look at it that way, that if I am wrong, my God will correct me. You don't need to correct me because you're just a man. Why would I listen to a man? That they don't understand that line of thinking. And once you do, then you stop worrying about what other people bring to the table. This is why Jesus could hang out with the prostitutes. Jesus could hang out with the lepers, because he wasn't worried about what other, the rabbis and the Pharisees were saying, because they were just men. He was worried about what his creator was telling him.
Yeah, and if you say something that ends up being wrong down the line after you learn some more and whatever, he's the first one to say, hey, I was wrong about this. This is what I found out later.
Damn right.
And I think everybody, things change momentarily. Like they just change every second, every moment, every day. Opinions change, information changes, facts can change.
It's funny too, because and that's like intelligence. It's like, just to be able to admit that you're wrong and all that. And I think, unfortunately, people take that like very sacred principle of intellectual communication, and they apply it to when politicians bounce around and change their minds and sway and this and that. And it's like, don't give them any of that.
Yeah, and I think it also has to do sometimes when you can't admit that you're wrong. I think it or it makes you feel a certain way. It's you turn and you say like, I'm not stupid. I'm not stupid.
Right, right.
Well, and they don't want to be schooled by someone who doesn't know the word, the Bible, as well as they do. But I can say it because God teaches me without any books or anything. God just gives me information, and then I give it out, and it turns out like everything I talk about, it's in the Bible somewhere, and someone tells me at some point where it is.
Part in the beginning,
yeah.
Tell me some story, and then like a week later, be like, I just read this in the Bible. And you know that I didn't read the Bible before this. Like, you know.
That happens to me
like
and
that
Kate
I
a
do
lot
that
of
to
times
them.
where like I'll be talking about something on the couch while I'm stoned with her and you know, some wild concept. And then a couple weeks later, she'll like send some video to me of someone talking about that, you know?
Yeah, the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
It's
I
like,
was
yeah,
on this.
it's out there.
I was on a bit of a roundtable with people who had like 20,000 subscribers, 120,000 subscribers, 5,000
Damn.
subscribers, and I
That's
was
awesome.
schooling all of them, and none of them want to do anything with me now. Like I hit them up,
What the
and
fuck?
I was doing it in such a kind, loving way. And I wasn't like condemning them, but they were like trying to condemn each other, and I was like in the middle saying, trying to make peace and tell them how, just show them the opposite side of what they were thinking, and
Yeah.
they were all quiet. Like I had a mic drop moment like 5 different times where nobody had anything to say because I'm schooling them on the Bible, and I don't know the Bible that well, and I'd only have this many subscribers, and I've only been awake for this amount of time, a short amount of time, and people really and I saw you post about this, they get this spiritual ego about them that they can't handle when they're questioned, and they say no, they hide behind spirituality, and they say that because they're spiritual they can't have an ego, and it's like there's such a disconnect from what an ego actually is,
Yeah.
that they write it off in their minds that ego means this when it actually means this, and when someone says ego they say, oh no, that's that, I don't have that anymore. And it's like you're just calling it something different, you're not understanding what the essence is.
Yeah, I've been onto some dark shit lately with the ego. And
I think that oh, sorry, go ahead.
it's okay. I was just gonna say that like I'm the more I'm looking into this, I'm finding the ego popping up in more and more places where there was supposed to be, this higher self or whatever. Even the perception of certain experiences we come back from. I'm just playing with a lot of different ideas right now. I'm kind of like being my own skeptic in a way. But at the same time, I'm not doing it like in like a negative way or anything like that. It's just I'm kind of reanalyzing a lot of things that I've learned, going up the spiral, trying to anyway, on a different rung, looking at the same shit again from a new perspective. And just to top that idea off, tomorrow, for the first time in probably 10 years at least, for me, probably way, way more for Kate, we're going to do some mushrooms.
Oh.
I heard you guys talking about microdosing, and I had a mini experience telling me that I need to
even
hop on that train.
before she heard that, because
before I heard your podcast. Yeah, and I was like, those guys too? Like, is everybody being called to microdose?
Well,
so we're talking about a woman who only had psilocybin in her youth, like didn't have an ecstatic experience, that mostly had like negative or creepy or crazy or weird experience, you know what I mean? And now so many years later, for years told me I was nuts for doing psychedelic, thinking that, telling me that it's the opposite of the chemical that I would ever want in my body. Oh my God, I try to control everything, blah, 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 like, but now she's come so far that it was her idea.
Hey, Andy, I'd like to introduce you to Kate of the South.
Yeah.
Dude, I love this. Yeah, I see Anita going.
I would always be like, am I going to be able to like mow the lawn? Am I going to be able to do the dishes? Am I going to be able to go outside and like talk to people? Yes, you are. You're going to be able to do all of that because it's going to be like you didn't do anything.
The day up until, the moment up until we did it, it was like this old woman all of a sudden was like, decrepit woman in her was like,
I was like, he's trying to kill me.
Yeah. and she had her first ego death, and it was very pleasant for her after that. but it
You
was
know,
this buildup of negativity of like something came, like did not want her to experience this. It
Yeah,
was
me.
crazy.
I did not want to,
well, it happens at the
because
right
of the
time.
youthful experiences that I've had in that department and
Mhm.
the fear that it
I'll tell you what,
instilled in me.
that's when I faced the dragon of revelation because I was having to babysit so that I couldn't go all the way deep. So I
Right.
had to, I was in between worlds, and that's how I was so vivid. It was like I put on goggles and faced this dragon with, or this serpent with 7 heads and 10 horns. It was incredible.
That's so
Yeah, my
amazing, dude.
experience
Yeah.
before this was like with
I think
fresh
she was
shrooms.
the dragon that I faced, and I laughed in its face. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think the dragon was coming out of her.
I think it was like my early 20s. It was a fresh shrooms, and
Oh,
we had made a tea, and this was like my first time ever. No, not my first time doing shrooms. I'm gonna say this is the first time I had tea and fresh shrooms as opposed to
Dried.
dried
yeah.
shrooms, and I guess I drank way too much. That's all I know. I remember like the only thing I remember from that experience is like worrying about the mailman coming, like somebody coming, because it was, I don't know why, but we did it like 11 o'clock in the afternoon, so it was like that's dumb already. You don't want to do it like during the day.
Right.
And then I remember being in the shower, like I'd stripped down and I was just like in the shower, like, please let it wear off, please let
Oh
it
my
wear off.
God.
It was the worst. It's the
Yeah,
worst.
going against the grain on psychedelics
I
is
was
like hitting the
totally, and
gas
nobody
pedal.
was like helping me along. They were probably just like, she's in the shower, and I'm like, somebody help me.
Right.
There's
You're
no
like on the
helping.
Titanic.
Yeah, I was all by myself. I was alone on the door.
You know,
There is
it's
no helping. That's the thing, is once you take it, you're committed.
yeah, the thing is like again to
But I
bring up
wasn't calmed.
yeah, to bring up Terrence again, he always said that like psychedelics seem to be easy on beginners when they're really on the right path, that like if you take it, even if you're stressed out and you're anxious about it, like they seem to welcome you in. It's when you go in with expectations, that's when the danger begins, you know.
Right, because the first couple times I'd done shrooms was like in my teenage years. I didn't have
Right,
any kids, like, and it was like, we're gonna have some fun, and we would sit and
right.
play like Mario and just hit the jump button 87,000 times and just watch them just,
Yeah, you didn't have
watch
enough
that.
crazy shit in here yet to actually have the crazy experience
Right,
to
you
reflect.
walk the
And it wasn't
neighborhood, walk
ritualistic
home,
or ceremonious.
nothing. There was nothing to fear by yourself because you were like, yeah, I'm cool. I'm on shrooms and I don't care, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But then you hit your 20s and you have responsibilities and other things that creep in that try to ruin your experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's
Well,
like
That's
my
the first
first
time I told everybody
experience.
all that.
My first all right, very nice. My first
Now
mushroom
people know.
experience was like the most positive, mind-blowing, life-altering experience of my life. And then I tried to have that again about like 1 week later. And I went in with all of those expectations. And it wasn't like a horrifying bad trip, but it was like null and void. And I felt like I was Neo in that train station subway. Like just every room was nothingness and it was just drab, and it's like the party was over. I was going back to a party that had already happened and it wasn't there anymore. It was very weird.
Yeah, I experienced rebirth the first time I did shrooms, but
Yeah.
I was
I didn't
telling
get any of that any other time. Well,
Same here. Mushrooms for me, not acid, mushrooms.
yeah, mushrooms for sure. Yeah, the LSD I did, it was really good, but
I loved
it was
acid, but
too long.
yeah,
I
acid.
don't
Yes.
remember any of my acid trips. I just remember being like the wimp that would only take like 1 square when everybody else is taking like 8. I'm like, you guys
Oh
are
man,
crazy.
Yeah,
I was the
I took
weirdo taking like 2 tabs and going, okay, this will go great with this drop of liquid.
yeah, I did 2 tabs. I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get more than I was last time. No, it's just longer, and
Yeah.
then it's like, oh, this is too long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
acid does for some reason have like it's almost like it's programmed where
Well,
it's going to get super intense and it's going to peak and then it's going to wave out. But
I'm
and
chilling.
it could be prolonged
Research
depending on
this.
how much you take. But with mushrooms, the more you take, the deeper into yourself you go. And
Yeah.
that's why, like, Terrence McKenna talks about his heroic dose being 5 grams. My heroic dose was 8 grams. And oh my God, that's when
Well,
everything really completely broke open. It was
Yeah.
nuts. That's
Yeah,
when
I
I
did.
completely shifted away from
did you
everybody.
say like you accidentally did 8 grams? Did I hear that right?
No, my
Somebody
wife did
accidentally did
though.
too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I knew I
My
heard
wife
somebody
had, so
say.
she showed up like super thirsty off of her bike as a teenager or something, like
I remember. Okay.
at a group party or something where everybody was putting mushrooms into this
That
drink
tea,
or
man. I'm
something.
telling you,
Yeah.
the tea.
Yeah,
But
well,
that's the thing, she blacked out. It's like you don't have enough of your own constructions to be broken down
am
yet at a young age.
shivering.
It's not as impactful when you're 16. Or maybe it's different for everybody. I mean, I shouldn't say it's definitely not impactful at 16, but for me,
did you cover your mic? It got a
oh
little.
shit, I might have. Did I just disappear?
Yeah, it was a little muted. I mean,
Um,
not all the way, but
Word. No, I was just saying that, like, yeah, for overall, mushrooms seem to, the more you take, the deeper you got. It was much different than acid in that
yeah.
respect.
Yeah, I did 5 grams 3 different times. The second time I did it, I was like pretty much with it the entire time. The third time I did it, I was like, well, I probably should have did more, but this is probably telling me that I shouldn't, I should wait a long time before I do them again.
Right. Yeah.
Because it just, and then I was experimenting with all different types of stuff, 2CB,
Yep.
4, what was it, 4 APO, 4
Yeah, I
ACO
remember that.
DMT, all sorts of different stuff. San Pedro was cool,
San
but
Pedro was really cool.
I saw red Aztec symbols right in front of my face. I made my own San Pedro. I had my own cactus, and
Dude,
I
that's
made it.
awesome. That's so cool. I have another friend who's doing the same thing right now. He's actually growing peyote buttons like in this big greenhouse he's got and everything. It's fucking weird.
Oh,
And he
okay.
lives in Massachusetts. I don't know how it happens.
Yeah. Well, good luck to him with it.
Yeah, seriously.
It's, I mean, doing it yourself, it is a process. And see, my mistake when I drank the San Pedro, I drank it the night after, so I prepped it on a Friday, and while I'm prepping it, when you're inhaling the fumes, it's doing stuff to you. And I also took 4 ACO DMT. So
We mix some shit together while I'm all
no,
messed
I
up.
didn't mix it. I took the 4 ACO DMT as I was finishing up making it, and as I started inhaling some of the fumes, I was like, well, okay, this is what tripping feels like. and then the next day when I drank the San Pedro, it didn't, it's supposed to be like a 16-hour thing.
Oh yeah, it's a
And
journey.
it wasn't. And because I just did 4 ACO DMT the night before. So when I drank the San Pedro, I even took LSD on top of it later on.
Wow.
And it really didn't do too much to me, other than I saw the red symbols appear right before my face, Aztec symbols.
That's
But
crazy.
yeah, I was a beginner and I did a lot. But I mean, it's not like it, messed me up or anything.
No,
It
no.
really didn't do anything.
No, if anything, alcohol messed my brain up, not psychedelics.
Yeah.
Psychedelics had improved and clarified so many things. When I drank a lot, and now not drinking, it's like I can kind of tell where I'll go guest on a show, or I've probably done it on Worship in the Storm a bunch of times, where I'm on this crazy awesome thing, and then suddenly I can't remember where I was headed. And maybe I'll try to get that ability back to complete my fucking thoughts tomorrow when I talk to myself on the shrooms or something.
I don't think that that you're alone in forgetting things.
I know
forget things all the time.
Yeah.
Well, we all have holes in our brains from doing different stuff like alcohol, or I mean, so many different things. But yeah, there's holes.
MDMA.
Yeah. Yeah. So when your brain, the way that I see it is your brain synapses are firing and it's like a spiral, going around your brain. And when there's a hole there, it's like
It misses,
Yeah,
skips.
it's like misfiring and has to like jump across a cliff, and then it gets to the other side, or it falls down and you just completely forget.
Oh, I can paint you a beautiful picture here. It makes it perfect. So like what happens is I'll have this big, beautiful thought. I see the whole thing and I start to tell it, but then I realize halfway through there's elements of it that will probably be taken a multitude of ways. So if I try to get to my ending point, it may not be as impactful as it should be unless I go off on tangents and explain these other things first quickly and then return to my main road here, and I get lost and I end up in the desert.
Yeah, I used to when I first woke up and I was explaining different conspiracy theories to my parents, trying to explain it in full. Yeah, I'm like, all right,
That's
Hillary
a whole
Clinton
thing in itself.
eats babies, and then I'll be like, okay, well, how do I get there? And then I tell this backstory and this backstory and this backstory and this backstory. By the time I'm like 3 backstories in, they're like, that's too much. I can't handle that. And I'm like, but wait, I'm not even.
There's
I haven't
more.
begun yet.
Yeah, wait till you get to the reptilians.
Yeah,
it's just
very hard
I've had
to explain things to certain people. It's like I know too much.
Especially when conspiracy theories that are like not necessarily true in the way that they're presented all the time, but are true in that, names and families and certain things are absolutely involved with very important central dark shit. They've been destigmatized where like before I even have a full outburst, my dad can be like, oh, and let me guess, what is it, the Rothschilds or something? And because that's already been, it's like, yeah, of course, yeah. Oh, what, you're going to tell me the Jews are let's go, come on.
NASA's fake.
I did get him on the ropes. I think we even talked about it on Worship in the Storms. Like, I think it was after Thanksgiving, we were having a talk, and I didn't get a lot of that because I was very put together that night or something and was able to get some good coherent thoughts out. And his questioning instead was not sarcastic, and it was, how do you think they could have done it then?
Right.
Which was like the first time I had ever heard him phrase something in that honest, well, okay, let me play with this with you for a minute. Which has never happened.
Yes, because eventually these people that were trying to quote unquote wake up, they get a curiosity, like maybe part of it.
Well,
Let me hear a little bit
it has
more.
to hit him personally a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
My dad called me one day and was like, hey, I just saw that Edward Snowden movie with the kid from Third Rock from the Sun, all grown up. We need to talk for sure. And I'm like, of course, like, he's a businessman. That kind of shit, that cool Hollywood flavored espionage kind of stuff, that's what's gonna, put him over a little bit.
Well,
it's a true story. Oh, yeah.
I got my mom 2 weeks ago, so maybe it was 3 weeks ago. I said to her that we're controlling our own reality to an extent, that it's our illness doesn't just randomly happen.
Right.
And it was like an offhanded comment, it wasn't like the topic of discussion, and it was like towards the end, so I didn't even really remember that I said it to her. But the next week when I called her, she was like, I've been thinking about that all week and I can't live my life that way. And I'm like, what? She goes, that God would punish us. And I'm like, what do you mean God would punish you? She goes, what, that I would get sick just because I wasn't doing the right things. I'm like, that's not God punishing you, that's you punishing you.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, how do you think it happens? And she thought about it and she goes, well, I don't know, I never thought about it. And I'm like, so do you think that it would be punishing if God just randomly did it? And then she started thinking about it, and then I was like, and she got very upset. She was crying and she was starting to accept that she's co-creating her reality, and that her decisions are very impactful on her children and grandchildren, and everything she thinks and does and says in a literal way, our DNA is speaking to itself from her to me without us ever communicating. And this is kind of how telepathy works, is that we're picking up on different things like that that aren't
cells have
physical.
telepathy.
Yeah, that things are just occurring. And when I got her to understand that, Well, I haven't talked to her in the last like week and a half or so, but I'll talk to her again soon. But that conversation went very differently than any other conversation we've ever had. She was crying, but not because we were fighting. She was crying
Right.
because she was scared that the implications that she's co-creating her reality was a very scary thought. And she said one thing that was very true is, I don't think people could live knowing that. And I was like, well, that's why we are where we are.
Right. We're not.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
And
go
for
ahead, man.
his mom to be that far and want to talk like that is it's a huge step, because let me tell you, like, what was it, Christmas? No, it wasn't Christmas. New
New
Year's.
Year's.
Over New Year's, like, it was painful to watch the two of them talk. I mean, I had to literally leave the room and go to sleep because I was like, I can't even. I don't even want to be in this
Right.
room.
Yeah.
But I just
Like, I
wanted
felt so awkward. I was like, I gotta go.
I just wanted her to actually hear, because she's
Yeah.
very just dismissive of
Yes.
it can't be true what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
she's like, make it
Right.
stop, make him stop, make him stop. It's
Oh,
like he's not
geez.
even doing anything.
But yeah, I wasn't even being mean or nothing. I was on my knees, like holding her hand, and I
He's
said,
like,
"Mother,
I love you.
I love you. I want to do this for you." And she turns to my dad and says, "Make him stop. What's happening?" Like she was like totally rejecting reality in the moment, but
Awkward.
I held it strong in my spirit, and through that, now I've gone through to her in a very deep, compassionate way.
That's great, man. That's
Yeah, and it's also like knowing the old you, and the new you in a way, the way you used to be and the way you are now.
Backhanded the old me.
It's two different people, and she still sees the original person. The person that she raised, the person that she put where he was. Like
right.
she doesn't quite see it that way, but and all the
Yeah.
work he's done to be where he is now. She's got to catch on at some point that he is not who she thinks he is anymore.
It's so hard for them to see,
I know.
Yeah.
especially when the ways in which we prove to ourselves that we are better or we are succeeding and stuff don't usually match anymore what our parents' generation considers success or
Yeah.
even good behavior in some cases. It's just so weird that at one point in history it was so easy for families to live with so many generations together, and differences were always so suppressed, or there were no differences because they were all so close. And now you look at the world and it's our generations apart are so vastly different.
Isn't that funny? It's like you want to be free from all of that, and then when you are, you're like very lonely. You're very separated from your family. I feel
Especially
like
as a parent,
we grew up like this, and then you end up like this, and all you want to do is be like this again.
Yeah, I feel that strongly.
Yeah.
I had a pretty decent upbringing. Every family has its issues, but for the most part, I really cherish it. And yeah, the independence is beautiful, but you always want to go back home, and that's what it's all about anyway, right?
Yeah.
All my kids are like, oh, I'm going to be 18 in like 10 weeks, 4 hours, and 27 seconds. I'm out of here. Like, I'm like, what am I doing wrong that you want to just leave me?
We all just want to find ourselves.
I
And
know.
once we do to a certain degree, we're
Yeah.
like, okay, now I can cope. Now I can go back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they end up coming back.
And it's also about centering yourself, your family. And that doesn't happen for everybody. Not everybody has that opportunity and that family. A lot of families are very toxic and very dangerous to be a part
Yes.
of.
Yeah.
But, one way or the other, if you're courageous enough, you can kind of rise above those things. But it's always through it. It's never around it or
Yep.
over
Right.
it.
Got to get through it to get to it.
Yeah, and so I'm excited about tomorrow, and this will be my first foray in a good 10 years into
Feels for
real
ya.
psychedelic. So it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it always is.
But I'm gonna ease into it real
I got an
easy.
album to recommend for you. Maybe I'll do it off air just in
Sure,
case.
or promote the fuck out of it.
All right, well, okay. Jesus is King by Kanye.
Let me tell you what, you
Listen to
laugh,
that.
but it was the only thing that kept me like calm.
No
and
shit. I just
and
don't like
well,
hip
because
hop as much.
well,
Well,
it's not.
it's
So
not too much
ignore the
hip-hop.
person who made it.
Oh,
and
okay.
just
It's just Kanye kind of producing music.
it
It's
is.
like you'll say it's hip
the
hop a
most
little bit, but it's not
calming,
regular hip hop. It's
beautiful
it's beautiful music.
Well, he's
stuff.
also like one of the greatest producers of all time. Even a
Yeah.
metalhead can say that. You know,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
a
not
metalhead
hip-hop.
who's a sucker for polished sounding music. So
Yeah.
It's not hip hop, but it is beautiful, and
Yeah.
it will keep you in a good place.
that's
For
cool.
sure. Like
Yeah,
for sure,
and
for
it's
sure.
only a half hour long.
Yeah.
You do them 45 minutes in, put that album on, and
You'll
just
be
close your
talking to
eyes.
Jesus.
Yeah, just close your eyes and listen.
Hell
And
yeah.
that's how I
That's good.
experienced Rebirth, and that's why I listened to that album as many times as I did, was
You will
because it was shown
definitely
to me in a
feel
Cool.
safe,
new
secure,
way.
loved, and calm.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you for the recommendation.
absolutely. All right, but I think that'll wrap it up here. I got work in the morning, and
I got to
you
hike in the
gotta-
morning. I got to go climb a fucking
I
snowy mountain at 8 in the morning.
have to
Oh,
sleep
man.
in tomorrow, so sorry.
That's what Kate's doing too.
See?
Yeah, obviously
Eight of us now.
the kid will not be home with us while we turn into cartoons tomorrow. So
Very good.
Well, of course.
yeah.
All right. So everybody go check out Andy's stuff. Andy, do you want to let them know where they can donate to you?
Oh man, that's I have a Patreon or not a Patreon. I have a Venmo out there somewhere. I know there's a post on Instagram I made with like my donation link and
I
stuff
think
like
we
that.
have your Venmo.
Yeah, I'm not even sure how like my public facing page looks on Red Circle. That's just my hosting page for my podcasts, but at the same time they do offer like a donation service. So, yeah, I usually put it in my show notes, to be honest. It used to be in there, and then me just being the humble weirdo, I just took it out of there. So I don't think you'll find it in recent episodes, but yeah, sure, if anyone does feel like donating, I would gladly appreciate that. And yeah,
I
thank
think
you
I
very
have it
much.
in one of my episodes actually, so I'll go back and get it. That was probably my most popular episode on release. So
That's awesome. Well, I'll tell you this, man, like this community is just fucking amazing and so supportive, and I've never felt this connected to this many people, and it feels great.
I'm
And
with
I
you. I feel
appreciate the
the same way.
support that I've gotten, and I try to give everybody as much support as I can, and it's just it's a mutual thing, it's beautiful.
everyone knows that you'd be there for them, so that they're there for you.
Absolutely.
And love and prayers in this community really does mean love and prayers. It's not like, oh, I'm going to pray for you, and then you just walk away and go
I
about
know,
your
right?
day.
It's so weird when you find your
It's
soul
very
tribe
different.
and people actually
Yeah.
follow through with the words they say.
Yes.
Yeah. It gives us confidence, builds us back up.
Hell
All
yeah.
right. Well, everybody, make sure you check out the show notes to find anything else that either of us are doing. And
See you next Saturday,
we'll
right?
see you later.
See ya.
See ya.